Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about home price appreciation. We're going to go over the last 5 years. We're going to talk about 2022, and then we're going to go through the estimates for 2023 and 2024.
So if you like charts, this is the best place for you to be. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the video, share the video, and we have lots of charts coming up. Let's go.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to put up is this is the home price appreciation index. Of course, we're at the end of December 2022, so we don't have full month data yet, but we have it for November. So November year-over-year home price appreciation was 6.7%. Now what that means is home prices appreciated from last November 6.7%. So we have home prices are up right now compared to a year ago, but October to October, it was 8.5%. So that trend is that home prices are appreciating at a slower rate. Year over year peak was in March. So March was the peak. March 2022, it was 18.3% over March of 2021.
So can you imagine that? Homes went up over 18% year over year. I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. We've given up about 7% of that already. That's why we're still up year over year because we haven't given it all. Matter of fact, month over month, it was 0.9%. The projection is that in January, this month or January, that'll be 3 to 5% year over year. So what that means is in January, it's projected we will still be up from January of 2021. So the market appreciated for full year 2022, even though it went up and came back down because it didn't come back down. Now, we're not saying that's going to continue. Obviously, there's all these negative forces, but it's important to point out that if you would have said at the beginning of the year, because we did predict a home price appreciation for the year. We predicted 8 to 12 or something, right, for the year?
A lot more than what we will.
And we didn't nail it. It was a lot more than we said it would be, but it was still up for the year, and most talking heads were crashed.
Right. So
keep 30, 40, 50%. And they were way off.
Keep in mind that if we appreciate 5% for 2022, that is a very typical year for a good, healthy market. Real estate appreciates somewhere between 4 and 6% annually. So if we appreciate 5%, we're in there. Yeah.
Obviously, long-term economically, it's going to be difficult to keep those gains. We'll probably give them up. We do have some numbers here. We're going to throw up this next chart. The biggest thing on this chart is, so this is the annual appreciations per year. That bottom number is 2%. So as you can see, if you go back to 2013, the real estate appreciated at 6%, then the next year 8%, and then it appreciated 5%, 6%, about 7%. And then 2019, it's dropped down to about 5 or 6%. So it was appreciating, but at a lower rate. That was the first time we heard that the people thought the housing market would crash if the videos started coming out. But in 2020, it kind of stayed the same. And then, of course, 2021, it went up. And then January of 2022, it was up 16% from January of 2021. Then that 6.7% is now. That's basically, it's still up 6.7%. You can see the trend. But these are not the prices declining. This is the difference of year over year. But yes, it is forward-looking, right? It's forward-looking for potentially. And then the estimate for January, February. Now, you're probably wondering, what does this look like for the next couple of years? Well, the projection on here is that from the peak, which was June of 2022, by the end of 2023, it would be down 10 to 15% total from the peak. So let's first take that one. From the peak, if it goes down, let's say the max, 15%, because we had 16.7% appreciation, we're still up.
Right.
We would still end 2023 up above the beginning of 2021. So a 2-year period, home prices would actually still be up, but we would have had this bump in the middle where they went up and came back down. The projection for 2024 is 15 to 20% from the peak. So let's say that it's 20%, which is the max. They would be down a little, couple percent from the peak.
Right.
But then from the beginning of the year, they're still up.
Right. So from the beginning of 2021, it would still be up.
So 2021 to 2023, with these projections, if you take the absolute worst numbers that they're projecting, which are, of course, their guesses, right? Everyone's got a guess. They're still up over a 3-year period, which is, I think, a lot of people maybe, won't agree with. But that's fine. I mean, we're going to show the data because we show data we don't agree with all the time. We did it on the last video. Now, you're probably saying, but that in my market. That's what they all say. Well, but in my neighborhood or some other thing.
Right.
So first of all, these are national numbers, right?
Right. These are national numbers. And even within your particular municipality, you're going to find the different zip codes fare differently, right? Some are up, some are down. So real estate is hyperlocal. So then when we look at it nationally and you look at this map, you can see who is doing well and who's not. And you can see that Florida is doing really well because they got a lot of people that relocated to Florida from other parts of the country. You see that California is not doing that great because a lot of those people that relocated to Florida came from California. And then you see everybody in between where there were shifts.
Okay, so we have 6.7% year over year across the nation. We'll put up the next chart. We're going to show you how they got that number and where it came from. Okay, all the green areas, prices are up year over year, November to November. The highest is Miami. So from last November to now, home prices are up 17.8% year over year. Northport, Florida, Deltona, actually, most of the top cities were all in Florida. Right. Florida was like boomtown for real estate.
Yeah.
The lowest year over year, the worst in the country was San Jose, about 6%.
Right.
And then Seattle, San Francisco. Most of the top 10 were all west, Colorado and west. They were all western things. So when you average these numbers, you get to that 6.7%.
Right. And in order to get to these numbers, you've got houses that where the sellers had to take pretty substantial haircuts, and you have sellers that are still, today getting multiple offers. So, these numbers are, when you're looking at them, they're an aggregate. They're not really reflective of any one person's experience. So when you're looking at it and you're thinking, well, maybe this doesn't apply to me, this is why, because it's all everybody in that particular area kind of lumped together, and this is what you get.
And the reason why we have to do aggregate numbers is because people move around. And since COVID, people moved like crazy. And they're created imbalances. And it takes a while for builders and marketplaces to react to imbalances. But the first thing that generally happens with an imbalance in equilibrium price is the prices change. That's the first thing. So you have an equilibrium where people bailed out of the Bay Area. So you have all those red over there, right? And home prices have seriously tanked. But then people have come to Florida. So home prices have gone up substantially because now you're paying a premium. And in San Francisco and the parts of the West Coast, including Las Vegas now, we're starting to see that all that appreciation that's happened this year has been starting to be eaten away.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's a normal thing, because if you experienced what happened over the last year, it was an unnatural event, if you will, because we had this rapid appreciation. There was this whole frenzy, and then the Fed stepped in, interest rates went up, and the frenzy just kind of disappeared literally almost overnight.
The next chart is very, very interesting. Okay, so what this is the top 60 largest metropolitan areas in the U.S. They all have a little symbol on them. And then there's that index. If it's green, that means that from the peak, which was in the late spring, home prices are down anywhere from 1% to 15%. Now this is 1% to 15% from the peak in all these markets. If it's green, it means it was down very little, 1, 2, 3%. And that's where we get the 7%, 8% number nationally. And if it's red, it's like dark red, it's 15%. And you can see a couple reds on the West Coast. What's interesting is you look at this, the South and the East Coast has done pretty good, and the West has basically gotten crushed, especially California.
Well, so again, we talked about this before many times. California had a mass exodus, which is unusual for California, because California usually has net gains, not net losses in population.
And actually, California and New York were two that led the nation in people leaving. The states shrunk, and then Florida and Texas were the two largest states for population increase.
Yes.
For the U.S. So this just shows you the trend of what's happening. So when you hear somebody report, in your local paper, and then you live on the West Coast or whatever, you live in Las Vegas, that's a different number. Okay, now we're going to go through, this is the most interesting thing. Because when you look at these numbers, you're thinking, okay, but what does that mean for next year? Because maybe you're trying to make a decision, okay? So we're going to put up two charts and talk about them. The first one we're going to throw up here, if you look all the way over on the left, this is active listings by price tier. Now, these numbers could be aggregated into one line, but they broke it into 4 price tiers: the top, the second quarter, third quarter, and the bottom quarter prices. And as you can see, starting in 2017, the number of listings rises and falls every single year. It does it every single year. It rises and it falls because that's normal seasonal behavior. You have a lot of listings accumulate over the summer and the fall, and then they start falling every year. Okay? So rising inventory doesn't mean housing crash. It's a normal cycle. So people have said, oh my gosh, look at the number of houses have increased in whatever from the 2021 low to now. But remember, if you go all the way over to 2022, if you look at that, that's like a record low. Like when was the last time we had nationally 1.1 million houses available? Because normally we have 4 million houses available for purchase at any time.
Well, let's just say that the U.S. population was much smaller than it is now.
I think we did a video on this, and the last time it was like this was maybe in the 70s.
Yeah.
And the population could have been half.
Yeah.
Or 40%. Remember what that was? 40%.
Yes.
So we have a much bigger population, but we have far fewer homes on the market. So people freaked out when they saw the listings increase. But if you look all the way to the right of that chart, November 2022, you see how it's leveled off. And if you look back at every other year, what did it do when it leveled off? It declined.
Right.
So this is what's going to happen in the fall. Well, let's just do this. Juana, what do you think is going to happen in the fall? Do you think homes are just going to fall on the market and sit there? Or do you think it's going to be maybe some activity?
Well, it's called the fall.
It's called the fall. Okay. So you think this will follow the normal trend?
Yes.
Number of listings will drop. The activity will pick up. There'll be more people making offers. I mean, I think it's going to surprise people because we said there would be this 4-month period where you would have relative peace buying a house. We said October, November, December, January. And we said that back in probably June.
But honestly, as brilliant as we sound, that happens every year.
That does happen every year. But I think we could get back to this thing where we have multiple offers again.
Oh yeah.
And home prices may not go up. They may keep going down, but they may level off, or they may not go down that much. Because remember, the prediction is 15% total from the peak. We're already halfway there. Okay. The other half of this is home sales by price tier, and you can see that home sales go up and down with the spring and the fall as well. There is nothing to believe home sales. Now they may, as you can see, 21 and 22 had the highest peak of home sales. There were more homes sold. We probably won't get back to those numbers. It's not likely.
No. So I think the number of transactions are going to be relatively low for 2023.
But how about compared to normal? Like how compared to 2017, 18, 19?
Probably pretty close.
Pretty close.
Pretty
okay.
close.
All right. So these projections we're going to follow this. Like we're going to actually see if these end up being accurate. This is not our data. This is data from another source that analyzes. They're called the AEI Housing Center. They use NAR and Realtor.com and Zillow data. This is a data source we wanted to share with you. We spend a lot of time reading this stuff to find something that we think is interesting. I think the two things that stick out to me, Juana, the cyclical nature of the market and the timing of the number of, the change of interest rates could you imagine if interest rates had started going up last fall into the hot time of the season? That might have muted out a lot of this panic. You wouldn't have had the up and down. You would have had a more smoother transition to today. Because remember, we're still up year over year.
Right.
And we're going to finish 2022 ahead of where we were beginning of 2022.
Right. I mean, look, if interest rates had started going up a year earlier, we would have not had the bubble that we had, this in the middle of the, or the beginning of the year to the middle of the year.
Okay.
And we probably wouldn't have inflation and a lot of other things. So things would have been considerably different. But that's not where we are. We are where we are today, and we had a fun ride for the first half of the year, and it's been back to reality the second half of the year.
Okay, if these predictions are right, 15% by the end of 2023 from the peak, which is up 16%. So we still end up 3% over a 2-year period. Do you think that's possible? Do you think there's a margin of error around that? It could be 3 plus or minus 5, so we could actually be negative 2%. We could be plus 8%.
Right. I mean, and anything's possible. This is just, if you will, a guidepost, but by which to think about the future and maybe consider some choices.
Okay.
And I think what these graphs are showing, and what this data is showing, is a relatively consistent and tame market, for lack of a better term. Not a lot of drama, not a lot of excitement. It's just going to do basically. It's going to be mellow. It's going to be pretty mellow. It's going to stay. It's going to stay the course. Not a lot of really big movement, the way we saw a lot of big movement in the first 6 months of this year.
This is my prediction, that in 3 years, you'll be able to take all the real estate data, like these charts, and if you just chopped out 2022, right, and you make it go right from 2021 to 2023, you would have a little jump up because home prices did go up a year over the course of the full year, without the big spike, which was basically fantasy land, whatever. Certainly not the baseline for like homes have always been worth that, and oh my God, they're down 7 or 8%, right? If you chop that out and look at this, and then said, oh my gosh, people got all excited about real estate. People go, why? It went up every year. Like, oh, real estate went up every year. Like, why was, but half, like one part of the year it went up really fast and down really fast in a year. Like, well, what are you supposed to do? Like, sell your house and then 3 months later buy the house back and pay all the fees, all the taxes, and then also go get a 6.5% interest rate.
It was a unique event. That's it.
Okay, unique event. Okay. If you like the video, please subscribe, and this is why. Our very next video tomorrow, we analyzed 10 different companies like Goldman Sachs and Deutsche Bank and people like that, their economic outlook for 2023. And we pulled out all the real estate data, and we're going to do a video on that. It will be the next video. Okay. And if you want to watch that video, you'll have to subscribe and hit notification bell. Also in the comments, tell us what you think is going to happen in 2023. Interest rates have gone down over the last 6 weeks. They were set over 7% for a while. They went down to 6.2. They're back to about 6.5-ish. But they're moderating. It appears they're moderating.
Well, they are moderating. The Fed will still go up probably maybe a basis point or so over the next few months. So interest rates have not necessarily seen their worst, but they're not going to get significantly worse.
That is already priced in. Mortgage rates have priced in 2 50-point basis point raises.
They have.
Over the next whatever, and then no reductions next year because they're going based on core inflation and the 10-year Treasury. So there's they don't just follow the Fed. We did a whole video on that.
We did. I think part of that is going to be the fact that they've redone the way they qualify buyers as far as how they look at credit and how they look at income and that sort of thing. And they are approving more people, but I think part of that approval process is going to also mean more risk for the lenders, and I think that's going to translate into a little more interest on those loans.
Okay. All right. I'll give you the final. You can end it.
All right. Well, so if you're new to the channel, you don't know the drill. So let's tell you the drill. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the video, share the video, and in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from. If you thought the video was interesting, informative, entertaining, please leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about these numbers, what you foresee happening, what did you think of the charts. Anything that interests you, let us know, and we'll do our best to do a video on something that interests you.
Yeah, about half our videos come from suggestions.
Yep.
Yep.
See you on the next video.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.